Good to go? Alright, so I don't have the learning objectives in the PowerPoint themselves, but I'm just going to talk through them. So basically, I spent last year in Strasbourg, and I've experienced it as being a very diverse and enjoyable city to visit and to live in. So I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a background into the politics and the culture of Strasbourg, and the architecture in particular, which is one of the things that Strasbourg is known for. So some background information. Strasbourg is in Alsace, which is the smallest region of France. It's in the northeast. It's the capital city of Alsace. Alsace is broken up into two departments. You've got the Haut-Rhin and the Bas-Rhin, which basically means higher Rhine and lower Rhine, but they're the other way around. So the upper Rhine is on the lower part of Alsace, and the lower Rhine is on the upper part of Alsace. It's the 9th largest city in France, with a population of about 640,000 in the metropolitan area. The languages spoken in Strasbourg, or well, more outside Strasbourg, are French and Alsatian. Alsatian is a Germanic language. If you heard it, you'd think that you're listening to German. It would be similar to how Bavarian is not the same as High German, that the differences in the German language. It's spoken, unfortunately, by very few people, like the Irish language today. But also similar to the Irish language, there's been, in recent years, a great push to try and get people, especially young people, to learn it. Some school children are actually learning Alsatian now as an optional subject in the schools in Alsace. But the French government doesn't recognise the language as an official language. It's recognised as a regional language, the same as Breton, Corsican and Basque. Strasbourg's geography. The Rhine flows beside Strasbourg, between Strasbourg and Kehl, and indicates the Franco-German border. Kehl is a much smaller city. It's very industrial, and there's not much in Kehl. So most of the people living in Kehl would travel to Strasbourg in order to do their shopping and things like that if they wanted to go to department stores. Strasbourg benefits from warm summers but experiences extremely cold winters, which is horrible. Because coming from the west of Ireland, we don't really get cold winters. Yeah, I've already said that it's situated in the upper Rhine plain between the Vosges Mountains and the Black Forest. So Strasbourg is kind of in a basin, and as a result of that, there's extremely high levels of pollution in Strasbourg. And at times you'd have clouds in Strasbourg, but they're not actually clouds, they're pollution clouds. And the city itself, the urban development, they've tried to reduce the amount of cars in the city. So there's a lot of pedestrianised footpaths. Cars aren't really allowed into the centre of the city, and there's an extremely good bus and tram network. And the buses run on gas rather than diesel or petrol, and the trams are powered by electricity, by overhead electrical lines. So this is just a picture of a tram, and this is one of the tram maps. So I just put this in to show you this would be the centre of Strasbourg, and then these are the outer areas of the city. So the trams actually service well out of the city centre, and they run very regularly, roughly about every 10-15 minutes. So you don't really need a car in Strasbourg, which was one of the main aims when they developed the tram service. And there was major redevelopment of the tram service in the early 1990s. Strasbourg and the European Union. Since 1952, Strasbourg has been the official seat of the European Parliament. Although the European Parliament only sits for 2 plenary sessions a month in Strasbourg, and the rest of the plenaries are in Brussels, the Council of Europe, the heads of state of all the European Union member states, decided in 1952 that Strasbourg would be the capital, would be the seat of Parliament. It's also the seat of the Council of Europe and the European Court of Human Rights, and I just put in pictures of the various. This is the European Court of Human Rights here. Unfortunately, you can't really read it there. Kind of looks like a spaceship. And then you've got the Council of Europe, which is a very old building, and then this is the Parliament. And the Parliament is one of the most impressive buildings. I got to visit it, and all you need if you ever do go to Strasbourg to visit the Parliament is your passport, and you can go in. History of Strasbourg. The cathedral in Strasbourg was finished in 1439. Construction began in the 12th century, so to give you a bit of an idea. And it was the largest structure of the time, surpassing any other structure in the world. Alsace and Lorraine regions, which are beside each other, so Lorraine is just more inland, were under German rule in both World Wars. It was as a result of the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 that Alsace was returned or annexed by France, and then Alsace was liberated on the 23rd of November 1944 at the end of the Second World War. There's also one of their main streets in the centre is named Rue 23 Novembre, the street of the 23rd of November. And there you see plenty of statues around celebrating great military leaders like Kléber, and inside the cathedral there's a memorial to the US troops which liberated the city. In 1920 the Central Commission for Navigation on the Rhine was moved to the former Imperial Palace which is on Place de la République. In the year 2000, an Islamist plot to blow up the cathedral was stopped after cooperation between the French and German police. So that just kind of, I want to put that in to show that there's collaboration between France and Germany now, which, if you were to look at it back in 1950s, 60s, you wouldn't have thought that was possible.
1 minute, Shane.
And another, just a nice fact to know is in the first Sherlock Holmes movie, the cathedral in Strasbourg was blown up. That was one of the, at the start of the film when they're blowing up various monuments, the cathedral was one of them. Strasbourg is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can read that there if you want. It's surrounded by the river Ile goes through, and the Grand Ile is where the river goes through the centre of Strasbourg. And the reason it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site is that it illustrates Strasbourg's evolution from the 15th to the 18th century. I just pulled that off the UNESCO website. That's their own little thing. Is everybody finished reading it? Or?
Yep.
And this is the cathedral. They only built the North Tower because the ground was so marshy that they couldn't actually build the other tower. Otherwise, there would be a danger that the cathedral would sink. And this is just an example of the Alsatian architecture. These are what the houses would have looked like. And sports in Strasbourg. The local football team was formed in 1906, and the basketball team was formed in 1928, and these make up two of the main sports teams. Christmas markets are a big thing in Strasbourg. Strasbourg, the title that they give themselves is Capital de Noël, the capital of Christmas. And they bring in quite a lot of revenue into Strasbourg, and it's a great opportunity to see local produce, crafts, foods, wines, things like that. And it generates a lot of tourism for the area. And this is just a picture of one of the Christmas markets in Place Kléber with the big Christmas tree. And that's the arch leading into the main street of Strasbourg.
Lovely.